So a new theme for the last 4 weeks of this term. I'm calling it performance because I would quite like it to be a fairly open-ended or a broad theme that can be interpreted in different ways. I have been producing some drawings based on the Lyceum Theatre, and some of us are going to be at the Festival Theatre on Monday, but I haven't been able to get access there yet, so I'm sending you with the email and the video some photographs from the Lyceum that actually my daughter Iris took when I think she used it for her advanced higher art project. So there are real similarities between the two theatres, and they're these glorious places. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of approaches. I'm going to draw with wash, ink wash, let it dry, and then put some pastel on top. And just looking at these images that I'm sending you, I'm reminded, it's a while since since we've all been to the theatre probably, they're these glorious lush places, the warm colour scheme, all this kind of gold and brass. There's a quality, a warmth to them actually, as well as this very dramatic light, which is why I'm going to demonstrate some more sort of tonal approaches first. So if we see this as a 4-week project, we'll begin on Monday in the Festival Theatre. The following week we'll have a model in the studio, and then 2 weeks following that in order to turn some of these sketches into more developed compositions. And it may be that you work with the theatre, the stage, performers on the stage, or it might be more to do with the experience of the audience. I love in the theatres even things like the door handles. I've tried to choose a view through an open door, where the kind of drama of the auditorium is suddenly experienced. So this is the image I'm going to work from. It's a view through the open door to the seats, and there's also a view of the first balcony above the stalls, and I have some wash and a sponge and a bit of white card, and I'm just going to put down quite quickly some dark shapes. I've been looking a bit at Richard Diebenkorn's ink drawings, which I'm inspired by. Anyway, my composition from this photograph is to do with that open door, so I'm putting in those dark shapes, possibly slightly confused by this pillar, which is also a dark shape. But then these very dynamic sort of curving seats. So I'm going to work on top of this with pastel and charcoal, so I can be relaxed about this stage, being loose and uncertain, because I'm going to work into that with those other materials. And just a little bit of hint of the perspective of the seats. That came out much blacker than it was meant to. And also here, what I liked about this view was there's also just a glimpse of, as I say, the first balcony. And those, I'm forgetting the words for theatres, but the first balcony, what's it called? The upper circle. And that appears on the other side of my pillar as well. So I've got that down, and because it's wash, I'll need that to dry. So maybe while that's drying, I'll get another bit of paper. So I'm going to approach the second drawing in the same way, but this time I'm going to work on some grey sugar paper, which I don't tend to recommend for wash because it's so absorbent. But it's nice, these theatre interiors are very tonal subjects with their dark atmosphere, so it's quite helpful to have some tinted paper. And I'm going to work with this image, which I like because it's got a figure of Iris looking over the boxes, but also because it's got this detail of the lamp, that's a big finger, of the some of this theatre decoration. So it may be, as you explore this subject of performance, it's not necessarily even performers that you're going to look at. You might want to look at the setting, what would be the word, some of the kind of characteristic features. Oh, there's a knock at the door. So putting down some of those main shapes, thinking about what are the kind of features that characterize this theatrical setting, and as well as dark spaces. As I said, there are these amazing, certainly with the Victorian theatres, highly decorative lamps, carvings, classical carvings on the walls, brass fittings and so on. So actually that ink came out a lot darker than I was planning, but there's no harm in that. And I really do want to get some very dark spaces around the figure in the box. So there you go, that's a start there. So I probably didn't go quite as far as I wanted to with the wash with this image. But I say not as far because I really would like to eliminate a lot of the white. But what I wanted to demonstrate to you is that having put down the wash and the wash drying, I can draw into it with charcoal. And I think the wash will always give me, these dark wash shapes will give me a real structure. And obviously I've got the framework of the door, the open doors, firstly, but I would like to manage the light in here. And there are these bright lights on the upper circle. So all I'm doing really is getting a bit of charcoal over everything else, so that light, which is on the edge of on the balcony, can be something that will stand out. Because, as usual, what is it I want to show people? Well, with this theatre interior, I think I'm wanting to show them the kind of warmth and, what's the word? There's a certain plush comfort to this theatre interior. And I'm building up another knock at the door. So I'm knocking back a lot of the white, and I'm going to then get on some of the warm colours of this theatre interior. You might think, well, what was the point then of putting down the wash if you cover it all in charcoal? But the point is, this wash shows through very nicely underneath the charcoal and the pastel. And I think because it also makes me work very broadly. So as you can see, it's not starting in a precise way. It's starting in a looser way. But I'm confident that most things can be either refined or modified. But I've got that sort of main impulse of having a framework of the door with its glorious brass handle, and then also this dramatic perspective of the seats curving around, and finally the lights up on the upper circle. So those are the things that I'm trying to bring out of this image, and the charcoal could be sprayed, or I might just get on with the colour now. And the colour, as I've said, is this flush warmth. So yes, the Lyceum certainly, and I think the Festival Theatre is similar. There's this kind of red and green colour scheme together with the gold and the brass, which I think are all very warm and characteristic of a certain opulence. So yeah, there we go. That's that main structure established. I'll get a little bit of warmth onto the door. And then I would go back and work a little bit more specifically. Is there something I want to do to the seats? I'm a little bit confused by my seats, actually. It's because people keep knocking on the door. So I think that's one set of seats there. It's the front of those. So actually that should be seat. Anyway, there's things I wanted to sort out there, of course. But also, as I've said, there may be very particular things. So if we begin with either the visit to the Festival Theatre on Monday, or if you have these photographs, which I've supplied you with, I hope that you can begin just with almost exploring the theme a little bit. Don't decide what aspect of this theme performance you want to work with. Don't decide yet. Start working with some images and suggesting to yourself that you try and bring out certain qualities in these images, but keep an open mind so that as we go through the next 4 weeks and work with not just the interior of the theatre, but also a performing model, then you will be able to hopefully take this subject matter in a very particular direction. And it may be that it will link up with what we were looking at previously, figures in an interior, or it may be that you develop an interest in architecture, or it may be to do with, performance and music, or I've sent some images with the email of Laura Knight's theatre. She did work with the theatre, but she also worked with the circus. And there may be things in that particular type of performance that you could become interested in. So that's working with that one. I'll pause and I'll do a little bit to my ink on grey paper. So yes, again, to make the point with this image, it doesn't necessarily need to be about the figure. There is a figure leaning over the boxes, but what I think I would like it to be about is these fantastic lights. And so, having worked on grey paper and then put down my wash shapes, I can actually manage that light quite nicely. And I can even start with the bright light first and then work out from that. I can find what I need colour-wise. That was a good pale one. Yeah, so I've put down some of the white, and I'm going to see now how to work both with the decorative aspect of this carving around the light, but also to see how I bring out some of the light in other places. We'll put on the red velvet of the box. And again, I'm using a bit of charcoal. I think it works nicely. The wash really gives the paper quite a tooth, and so it'll take the charcoal quite well. But you can, of course, the ink and the wash is pretty permanent now, but I can smudge the charcoal and create some much softer effects with it as well. So that's a nice combination to develop. And then I'm thinking really about what's the emphasis. I want it to be on the light and the way that the light falls in certain places. And I'd like the figure really to be a bit more secondary. And if I could ever find the pastels I need. A bit in green, and then something right here. So, again, just trying to think of what are these characteristic features of somewhere like the theatre. And could I bring them out as more significant in the image than the figure? So that's something that I would work on. So there we go. There's more to do, but that's probably a good enough start. So a couple of images there that I've worked with, and hopefully you will find the material that I'm sending you useful. Hope to see some of you at the theatre. And we'll have Comanche modelling at the theatre for about an hour and a half. So I'll get some photographs of the Festival Theatre as well for you to add to this set of images. And I would suggest you start with drawings, perhaps try some of these techniques that are a little bit more tonal, where you can think of managing the light, drawing attention to particular aspects of the interior, and there may be figures you want to include as well. But let's see where this leads, and see if you can connect it with some of the things that we've done already, some of the things that people were working with under the theme of figures and interiors, and even possibly what you were doing with some of the techniques when we had an animal theme. Okay, so see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.